Hello and welcome to another episode or another contemplation from The Wind Speaks. This week on my social media and YouTube channel, I posted a couple of shorts, and both of the shorts were on the topic of anxiety. And these shorts are, I decided to take all my old videos and see if I could extract from them some wisdom and turn them into shorts. And so that's what these shorts are. They're old videos that I've done, and I'm just repurposing some of the content to create these shorts. So much to my surprise this week, two of those shorts, and just for context, most of these, when I post them, get very little views, and most people don't get beyond 3 seconds. But these two shorts on the topic of anxiety have each, at this moment, had about 1,100 views for each of them, which made me think that it's a reflection of where people are at right now, that there's a lot of anxiety and uncertainty in many aspects of our lives right now. And so that's what's inspiring me to talk a little bit more about anxiety in this contemplation. And when I think of anxiety, I think the best place to start is with my own journey. It's interesting because I didn't know, as I went through my journey, I didn't know what anxiety was. I had no context for it until well into my adult years so it must have been, I'd be guessing, but let's just say it was 15 years ago. So the majority of my life, I experienced anxiety and didn't know what it was. And I was at a mental health talk, and the practitioner gave a definition of anxiety and showed a video about anxiety. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's me. I immediately had this information that I didn't have before. And I guess what's interesting for me about my journey is that without that context, I just had to push through. I just did what I had to do and did what I could to manage this anxiety. But the moment I knew what it was, all of a sudden I was able to access other tools and other ways of working with anxiety. And over the years, I've really come to see anxiety not as a something that we have to work against, but something that's actually trying to work for us. And in recent years, I really got interested and fascinated by the nervous system and understanding how the nervous system operates in all of us. And anxiety is connected to our fight flight response. And a few years ago, I came across this person who had created what he refers to as the trauma braid. And so, how trauma shows up in our nervous system. And specifically, anxiety, as I just said, is linked to fight flight. So, it's important to think about this because fight flight is an activation of energy that wants to move you. In other words, in practical terms, it's like when we're feeling anxious and there's something that we need to try and fix or solve or resolve, the fight flight activation is the energy which is wanting to go towards fixing this issue. And it manifests as this fight or flight response. And what happens is if we can't solve the problem, if we can't use action towards solving the problem, then that energy gets stuck within us. So think about practical situations that occur in our life. If I'm at my workplace and I have a conflict with my supervisor and I feel the energy come up within me, I don't have a voice, I can't speak to it, I can't speak up for myself, then that energy gets stuck and it has nowhere to go. And with the trauma braid, it basically gives this path of when we have this energy, this that we call anxiety, which is something that we can't resolve, then we will do anything and everything to numb that feeling. And therefore the the solution to anxiety becomes addiction. So watching TV, eating, alcohol, drugs, you name it, anything that takes our attention away from the present moment becomes the solution to the problem. And ultimately, this results in people pleasing. When we don't know how to solve the problem, we do what we can to strategize. Um, yeah, really just do what we can to change the situation. And in regards to people pleasing, that's very much about making other people happy so that we can be happy. In other words, it's easier to go along with something rather than take a stand against it or a stand for yourself. And that actually creates more anxiety because ultimately we're feeling the the lack of inner alignment. It's like we know that we're not staying true to ourselves, and that creates more anxiety. So it's like this really interesting loop that we get stuck into. But ultimately, I really believe that anxiety is here to inform us. And I like to think of it as a check engine light. It's a check engine light that has come on and it's wanting to get our attention. In other words, when we're feeling anxious, something is asking for alignment. Something is asking to be felt. And really the first thing we can do is we can feel it. We can acknowledge it rather than push against it because this is a part of us. It's a part of us that is rooted in a system that was meant to keep us safe when we were living in very different times. And now in our everyday society, we're faced with things that are not equated to being a hunter gatherer with attuned senses and being open to the dangers that are surrounding us. The dangers that are surrounding us in our everyday life are really more about connection and loss of that connection and feeling isolated, feeling alone, and doing anything and everything we can to maintain connection. And anxiety is just the sign that something has gone out of alignment. And so what this requires is number one, just acknowledging it. It's like, oh, I'm feeling anxious. I feel anxiety. Oh, I see you, anxiety. I know you're here. Thank you for trying to support me. Rather than trying to mask it, avoid it, push against it. When we push against it, it just gets louder. And and trust me, I know how hard it is to feel the feelings that come along with anxiety. And at this point in my life, when I feel it, I know, like I stop in my tracks and I'm like, okay, what's going on? What is it that has happened? What is it that's occurring? And what can I do about it? And that's where, excuse me, that's where tools like meditation, mindfulness, breathing, anything that helps you to regulate your nervous system and come back into the present moment is going to be quite helpful. So, to that end, if you go to my website on the free resources tab, there's all sorts of resources there, tools for regulation, self-care exercises, things that I've gathered over the years. And so just encourage you, if you are feeling anxiety, going to those resources can be really helpful. So I hope that in this sharing, there's something that has come up for you. Um, being an empath and a sensitive soul, I think we're more susceptible to anxiety and it becomes more intense for us. And so it's a really important piece to be able to work with it rather than against it. And and in society we tend to look for quick fixes and unfortunately this is one of those things. It's not necessarily a quick fix because it's also rooted in our conditioning and we've been conditioned to have this anxious response. So I think I'll leave it there for now. Hopefully there's something I've said that is helpful for you, and hopefully you can reach out and check out those free resources on the website and find something that supports you. And I hope that this contemplation perhaps brings some ease to the struggle of anxiety that is very real. So I'll leave it there. Thanks so much for listening. Bye for now.